What is up, everybody? What's going on? Got a little countdown thing. Here, let me center myself a little bit. I don't like this. All right, welcome to Status Coup. I am Placone. I am feeling in today. Feeling it. That was weird the way I said it. What a way to start out. That was just weird right out the gate there. I am filling in for Jordan Cheriton today because Jordan Cheriton has not had a day off since 1972. Seriously, y'all, Jordan has been working incredibly hard. He did a swing state tour doing reporting from a bunch of swing states. We're going to be going through some of that today. So, yeah, he needed a day off. Happy Devil's Eve. You know what? At the end of the show, let's maybe have a little bit of Halloween talk. Why not? I mean, tomorrow's Halloween. It's my personal favorite holiday. Let me know what you're doing this Halloween. Like and share this stream. Tell your friends. You know how it goes. I don't know how I can see that. Yeah, smash the like button. Share this stream. Tell your friends. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about what's going on in Lebanon and Israel. They're demolishing tons of stuff out there, and a little bit about how our government's responding. We're going to be talking a lot about the election news. In fact, that brings me to today's poll. Who do you think's going to win? We're going to keep it simple. This is the last time I'll be streaming with y'all before the election itself. I guess I don't know that for sure, but chances are it's going to be the last one. We're going to do a lot of election talk today. So, who do you think's going to win? Is it going to be Trump or is it going to be Harris? Who do you think's going or other? We'll give you a third choice. If you think that somehow it's not going to be one of those two, I think unfortunately it's going to be one of those two. I wish it wasn't. But it's going to be one of those two. So who do you think is going to win? And when we get to that election portion, I will share my prediction. I'll give you a heads up. It's not a prediction I feel great about. It's just an objective prediction. So what's your prediction? Let us know. Colin's going to have the poll on the ones and twos, and we'll be going through it. Some of you guys are saying happy Ron's Day. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for that, Chris. Thank you for that, Kat. I've missed you all very much. I'm very happy to see you again. I hope you have all been well. Yeah. All right. So let's get to some of the news. Oh, also, we'll be talking about some stuff over at TYT and how it pertains to the election. And also RFK scaring the shit out of humankind. But first, bro, you know me. I always do domestic last because domestic is definitely my strongest bag. So we'll go foreign first. We'll travel first, then we'll come home. My cat is meowing. She's like, "What are you doing? It's time to pay attention to me." No, I'm filling in for Jordan today. I told you this morning, Lucy. Do you guys want to see the cat? Can we see the? There's a lot of heavy news today. Can we start out with the cat? Would that make you feel a little better? I think so. Why not? All right. Here we go. Lucy's here. How long will she stay? Nobody knows. By the way, seriously, no joke here. If you do have a black cat, please try to keep them inside if they're not already an indoor cat. Even though it is 2024, this is still a month where black cats are in even more danger than usual because of a lot of sick, superstitious people out there in the world. So please, if you have a black cat, try to keep them inside. And if you're thinking about, I want to add a furry loved one to my life, and you see a black cat roaming around who's a stray, bring them home. Bring them home, adopt them, change they'll be. Lucy ran into my house many years ago on an October night, many years ago, and she ran into my house, didn't leave. We kept her. Seriously, one of the best things that ever happened to me. No kidding. One of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. Getting chosen by a cat is one of the most special things in the freaking world. Colin's got cats too, I'm pretty sure. You're a cat guy too, right, Colin? We should really get to news. I'm not trying to stall. I just, the cat meowed. What are you gonna do? But you're a cat guy too, right, Colin?
Oh yeah. There's few things, yeah, better than even when you already have the cat. Then when it comes and decides to snuggle you or something like that is very different than a dog because it feels like an event rather than just part of the norm.
All right. Well, I wasn't trying to make it a competition. Now you just pissed off all the dog people, Colin. Way to go. All right.
I got dogs too. Don't worry.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, she's actually on my lap. I don't know if you could tell, but yeah, she's on my lap right now. Anyway, all right. So let's go to this is from the New York Times to just kind of set it up on the tee what's going on. Of course, the Israel Palestine situation continues. It's not a situation, by the way. It's a freaking genocide. And it is brutal. Neither candidate is offering peace. Peace is not on the ballot. All Kamala Harris has to do is say, hey, I will at least try to get a diplomatic solution going. Unlike my predecessor and unlike my opponent, she won't do it. She won't do it. It's honestly remarkable. It really is, even for this country. So here's something from the New York Times. Israel demolished hundreds of buildings in southern Lebanon. Videos and satellite images show at least 1,085 buildings have been destroyed or badly damaged since Israel's invasion. They're claiming they're targeting the Hezbollah militia. And here it is. Satellite imagery and videos show widespread destruction in 6 villages along Lebanon's southern border with Israel, revealing over 1,000 buildings that have been leveled or badly damaged. The images offer only a glimpse at the situation in southern Lebanon. There have been little access to the area since the invasion began. Now, they're saying this is about the October 7th attacks. Now, that's what they've been saying the entire time. How many people how many people need to die? I mean, my God. According to the Times' latest analysis, one village appears to have been virtually flattened, with only a handful of buildings still standing, and 5 other villages and towns, entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. Look at these before and after photos. And by the way, this isn't even from some anti-war. This is from the New York Times. This is from one of the most pro-war outlets out there. And of course, they're making it seem like this is justified. Like, oh yeah, no, they're just chasing a couple bad guys. Just unfortunately, thousands and thousands and thousands of people all over the Middle East who had nothing to do with anything need to die. It's like it's unreal. It's unreal. And you don't have an option to vote against this stuff. Well, you do, but it's not in the form of either of the two major duopoly Wall Street sponsored parties. It's not there. It's via third parties. You really don't have a chance. You really don't have a choice. It's unbelievable. So here's something that that government officials in the U.S. are spending their time on. Instead of saying, hey, this has gotten ridiculous, even over in Italy, even Giorgia Meloni, who is a fascist, she's a fascist. And even she's going, oh, this has gone too far. Yeah, this is, I mean, pretty much the rest of the world is going, this is a mess. Come on, this is ridiculous. But the U.S. is like, nope, whatever Israel wants, they get. Whatever they want, they get. Do you have a problem with that? Well, yeah, I have a problem with the war economy, and I have a problem with killing thousands and thousands of innocent people. You sound like an anti-Semite. That makes no sense at all. Yeah, it does. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. That makes 0 sense. I thought we were beyond that nonsense talking point. No, we're not. Okay. So here's what they're spending time doing. Let's go to the Hasan Piker thing, Colin. This is kind of interesting. Now, full disclaimer, I don't follow Hasan's streams. I don't know a ton about the guy. I knew him a little bit back in the day when aggressive progressives was still a thing over at TYT, which we're going to be talking more about TYT later. And I would see him around. I'd say hello. That was about it. So I don't really know the guy. But here's what's going on. New York Democrat writes scathing letter to the Amazon CEO, which I'm guessing they mean Jeff Bezos, or is he technically not the CEO and it's someone else now? I know he was the CEO, then he wasn't, then he was again. So anyway, accusing popular streamer of anti-Semitism. So there's that trope where, if you have a problem with a genocide being committed by the Israeli government, you must be an anti-Semite, which is a ridiculous talking point. Some of the leading voices against what's going on are Jewish Voices for Peace, saying not in our name, but they still bring out this tired trope, and calling it tired is putting it gently. So Richie Torres out in New York wrote a scathing letter to the CEOs of Twitch and Amazon this week, accusing popular Twitch streamer and left-wing pundit Hasan Piker of being the anti-Semitic poster child for a systemically anti-Semitic social media platform. That's so The guy saying, which look, again, I don't watch Hasan Piker stuff, but I have a feeling he's just speaking out against the genocide, and that's what this guy is saying is quote anti-Semitic. I think that's likely what's going on. I say likely because I don't know for sure. I don't watch Hasan Piker, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's what's going on here. So that's what this guy's saying, and not only does he say that that's true about this streamer, but now he's saying the entire social media platform is anti-Semitic because of what the craziest thing there probably are. I mean, just by numbers, sheer numbers and users, I'm sure there are actual anti-Semites on Twitch and on Amazon. I'm sure that I mean, is that Nick Fuentes guy? He's a neo-Nazi. Is he on either of those things? I mean, that guy. Why isn't this guy complaining about him? Why is this guy complaining about Hasan Piker when there are literal other streamers and personalities who are legitimate Nazis? They're straight up, we're Nazis. But he's complaining about the guy who's against war. So Twitch, a subsidiary of Amazon, is one of the world's most visited websites. But there's one anti-Semite, and it's Hasan Piker. There's just one, and it's him, and he has now made the entire platform anti-Semitic. What are his anti-Semitic views? He doesn't like a genocide. Wow. So Newsweek called him the left's biggest influencer, and he's one of the site's most popular. So this is what elected officials are doing. This is what, keep in mind, people who are in the United States Congress, who are in the United States Senate, people who sit in the White House, people who are part of the executive branch. We can go away from the article for right now, Colin. They are some of the most powerful people in the world. That's not me saying this, by the way. That's a quote from Ro Khanna. They're some of the most powerful people in the freaking world who have the influence to try to end this thing. I'm not saying one member of Congress can end what's going on in Palestine or Lebanon. Of course, I'm not implying that, but they have the influence. The U.S. especially and the White House has the influence to put an end to this because they could say, no more weapons, you got to end this. They won't do it, but they could. And this guy is spending his time selecting quotes from Twitch streamers. You should find this incredibly disturbing on a multitude of levels. First of all, on a free speech level, but even beyond that, just on the level of this is how they're spending their time. They're like, we're going to select quotes from a Twitch streamer, take it with no context whatsoever, and we're going to complain about it a couple days before an election. Well, this horrific foreign policy, by the way, might cost Kamala Harris the election. If Kamala Harris loses on November 5th, it is nobody's fault but hers, first of all. It is nobody's fault but hers and the Democratic establishment. And one of the reasons will be because of the horrific foreign policy of the Biden administration that she did not distance herself from at all. Now, is Trump offering a better solution to all that? No. He's criticized Biden for not being hawkish enough when it comes to Israel-Palestine. He says he wants Israel to, quote, finish the job. What do you think that means? That means he wants to wipe Palestinians off the planet. However, the people in the White House right now are the Democrats. They're doing this, so it's pinned to Kamala Harris. And she's not doing anything to offer an alternative, to offer a different course of action, to offer a pathway to peace. Even the smallest thing, she won't do it. It doesn't take much to offer something better than your predecessor and your opponent. Your opponent wants to just destroy everything, and your predecessor was absolutely horrible. All you have to do is say, yeah, no, we're going to seek diplomacy. We're going to get a pathway to peace. She won't do it. It's wow. It is something to behold. So we're gonna get to specific election stuff soon. But first, you might have seen this already because this was everywhere. But man, before we get off the media, the corporate media, this is something very glaring. Let's go to the Mehdi Hasan video. This is one of the most repulsive things I've ever seen on cable news, and that's saying a lot. Cable news in this country is one of the grossest things in the world. The whole structure should be illegal. You shouldn't allow unlimited corporate advertising on news. And that is illegal in other countries, by the way. Do you guys know that? Do you know that our media structure would be illegal in Norway? They don't allow advertising in news for obvious reasons. If you allow commercial interest in news, news is going to go towards those commercial interests. That's why you don't really see honest reporting on climate change, because most of their advertisers are fossil fuel industry. That's the fossil fuel industry. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because people don't know they're supposed to put gas in their car? No, it's because they're buying favorable coverage. Fossil fuel companies don't need to advertise. My buddy Andy Peters used to have a really funny bit about it. But fossil fuel industry, gas stations, they don't need to advertise. Weapons manufacturers don't need to advertise. They're not looking for regular people. A regular person is not in the market for a tank. People know they have to put gas in their car for it to go vroom. They know that. But they advertise on cable news. Why do they do that? They're buying favorable coverage. And this on CNN is one of the most repulsive things I have ever freaking seen. And shout out to Mehdi Hasan for not letting it go. He really stuck it to this guy. And I think the guy has since been banned from CNN and probably everywhere else. So this was actually pretty great. Now, look, my personal politics are to the left of Mehdi Hasan. I don't agree with every single thing the guy says. He doesn't agree with every single idea I have either. That's how the world works. But man, he freaking nailed it here. And shout out to him for this. Let's go ahead and play the video.
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
You're called an
stop
You've been called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people would sit there and no, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. So I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die.
You should not.
No,
did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed on live TV?
I said I hope
Guys,
you don't.
let me just stop.
You said you hope my beeper doesn't go off.
Because you said I'm a big supporter
of the Palestinians.
Of Hamas.
Guys, let me
said
stop.
Palestinians.
Are you?
Am I what? No, of course I'm not.
Palestinians are not.
I apologize.
Are you a racist, violent person inciting violence against
Ryan,
me?
Ryan.
That's disgusting.
That is completely.
No, I apologize.
Good
That
job,
is
CNN.
completely
Let's have first
out
block
of
say the
pocket.
Muslim guy
You
should
know
be
that.
blown
Then I
up
apologize.
on
Then
TV.
I apologize.
Don't
Then I
say
apologize.
then I
Wow.
apologize. You literally.
say
I thought you said
accused
Hamas.
him.
I
You didn't think I said
No.
Hamas.
No,
I
you
said I
didn't.
supported
Yes, I did.
Palestinian
Yes, I
rights.
did.
Why? Because when you hear
What's funny
Palestinian,
is
you
Rudy
hear Hamas.
Giuliani said this
No,
yesterday,
because-
so you're a great guest to
Listen.
be here
All
to
right,
defend
I
Rudy
told
Giuliani.
myself
Give me
I
one-
wasn't going to
give me-
entertain
give me one
nonsense
second.
today, and so at this point,
This is what we're in
I
now.
can't
This
do
is America in
Here's
2024.
what I will say.
Forget the
Here's what
racism.
That's right.
It's I should
That's
die.
right.
I didn't say that. You
You
should
said,
die.
what does beeper mean? Don't give me your
I
fake
did not say
ignorance.
you should
Guys,
die.
Why did you say
guys,
with my
give me-
beeper
give me
go?
a-
So what did you mean?
What did you mean by the beeper?
So what
I
did
said-
you mean?
What did you mean by the
No,
beeper?
no.
No, you didn't. You said, I hope your
This is-
beeper
but
doesn't go off.
Ryan, stop
I'm just
talking.
so
At least
sorry.
have the guts to
I'm
support your
so
racist
sorry.
comment.
Hang
I'm
on.
so sorry.
Let her bring it back.
This is why yesterday's rally was disgusting.
Don't call us Nazis,
and
but I'm going to
outrageous.
threaten the brown guy as a
This is
terrorist
why.
and kill him.
Because I didn't ever say Donald Trump was Hitler. But do you know who stood on a stage yesterday and said, I want to come to the Nazi rally? I don't have to make up words and call you something. You're saying it for yourself. And what you just said
Kamala
right
Harris
here,
is a pimp
apologize,
handler.
but I will tell you, I don't accept that apology, and you didn't even say it
That's
to
fine.
me.
I didn't say it
that
to
was
you.
disgusting. But I can be offended when you don't even say it to me. I'm not Puerto Rican, but I was offended by what he said yesterday. And I'm offended that the former president and potentially future president would allow it and go for 12 hours and not say, I don't care. Because you know what? When Kamala Harris put out statements about switching up opinions, it wasn't good enough for Republicans.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you said it.
Why don't you take the
Man, that was and watching that. I mean, look, on one hand, watching that guy backpedal, kind of entertaining. I mean, let's be Mehdi Hasan did not let up on him. Again, shout out to Mehdi for that. That was well done. And I'll be honest, I respect his restraint. I mean, what that guy said was so vile and disgusting. And oh, that's not what I said. That's no. We know what you said. You hope the beeper. We know what that means. We know what you said. What a disgusting, repulsive, racist, vile thing. I mean, Mehdi summed it up right. Holy, and he didn't let it go. And then watching that guy backpedal, the kind of funny part was when he goes, "Did you really just say that?" The guy goes, well, "Didn't you say Hamas?" The word Hamas was never mentioned anywhere before the guy said that. And he goes, well, didn't you say, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Hamas. And then it's just like, no, that's not going to fly on this panel, dude. That's not going to fly on the. I'm sure there's other forums where that guy would have gotten away with what he did. But shockingly enough, even on CNN, on that particular panel, they didn't let that fly. Nobody there let that fly, which, tip of the hat where it's due. But and yeah, I think that guy's been banned from from cable news. How repulsive do you have to be? Well, we know the answer. I don't. Why am I asking that rhetorical question? We know the answer. That guy. You have to be that guy to get banned from cable news in the United States. One of the most repulsive institutions. Our cable news companies are owned by some of the most hated companies in the world. Institutions like Rupert Murdoch and his wet dream. Institutions like Comcast, Time Warner. That's who owns our news. Some of the most repulsive companies on the frickin' planet. Some of the most repulsive people on the planet. Jeff Bezos runs a newspaper. Elon Musk is becoming a media mogul because he ruined Twitter for everybody. And this guy is so vile. Man, that's wow. I'm sure you've seen that. I'm sure a lot of you see that already. If it was your first time, I mean, that doesn't get much gross than that. So let's go to the election. Are you excited or was that? Oh yeah. I got to say this. I'll set it up this way. First of all, smash the like button, share the stream, leave me a super chat. Would you? I want to chat with you. Tell me about your thoughts about the election. Tell me who you think's going to win. Tell me about your Halloween plans. It doesn't all have to be dooming. We'll do Halloween last though. I know we had a little bit of a preamble because Lucy showed up. And if my cat shows up, I'm going to give her attention. That's just how the world works. But yeah, let me know what your Halloween plans are. I have a gig, so it's not really, yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's cool, but it's like, I don't know. Some of my friends are doing something cooler, and I don't get to go until later. But anyway, so smash the like button. Please do leave me a super chat. And by the way, before we jump to the election, I will make a quick announcement that on election night, there is going to be coast-to-coast coverage right here on Status Coup. Jordan is going to be in Pennsylvania, and Tina Desiree Berg is going to be in Nevada. So it's going to be coast-to-coast on election night right here on Status Coup. Make sure you tune in. What time does that all start, Colin? What time does it kick off?
I think we're still deciding. I'm not sure if we figured it out yet.
Okay, all right. Time TBA. But tune in here on election night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe I'll be stopping by. I don't know. I don't know what the plans are. I don't know if it's just going to be in Pennsylvania and Nevada, or if they'll have people piping in from other places. I'll be here in sunny Los Angeles. But yeah, election night right here on Status Coup. Be here, coast to coast coverage. What other outlet is doing that? What other outlet? Come on. All right, let's go to the election. Let's start with that Mediaite thing. So I'll be honest with you guys, and I take no pleasure in this prediction. I think it's about 55-45 in Trump's favor. I don't mean I think those will be the exact results. I mean, I think there's a 55% chance Trump wins. I think there's a 45% chance Kamala wins. I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. And by the way, I take no joy in this prediction. I do not want to see Donald Trump become president again. I don't want to see either of them become president, honestly. I mean, I voted for Jill Stein, but I do not want to see a Trump presidency. I do not want to. I mean, I feel the same way I did in 2020, where I was thrilled to see Trump lose. I was sad to see Biden win. Some may say that's hypocritical. No, that's a human response to an utterly repulsive system that forces people to choose between pig shit and pig vomit. And you got to eat one, and you got to pick. So let's go to that. Let's go to that video. I think that video kind of sums up what the situation is here. Now it's just looking at one kind of statistic, so I don't think it's like totally 100%. But it is something that definitely points in Donald Trump's favor as far as what is going to happen next week.
Just 28% of Americans, voters, think the country is going in the right direction, is on the right track. And I want you to put that into a historical perspective for you. Okay, what's the average percentage of the public that thinks that the country is on the right track when the incumbent party loses? It's 25%. That 25% looks an awful bit like that 28% up there. It doesn't look anything like this 42% doesn't look anything like this 28%. So the bottom line is, very few Americans think the country is on the right track at this particular point. It tracks much more with when the incumbent party loses than with it wins. In fact, I went back through history. There isn't a single time in which 28% of the American public thinks the country is going on the right track in which the incumbent party actually won. They always lose when just 28% of the country believes that the country is on the right track.
It is a hard, you are swimming upstream if you're trying to win in this environment. Also, President Biden, on a micro level, a lot of the coverage today is over something President Biden said. On the macro level, what kind of a weight is he on the Harris campaign?
Yeah, so, Joe Biden isn't on the ballot, but he's certainly in the minds of Americans, right? So I went back and I looked, okay, was the successor of the same party when the president's net approval rating was negative at this point, which Joe Biden's most definitely is? He's 15 points underwater. Now, we don't know if Kamala Harris is going to succeed Joe Biden, but we know back in 2008, George W. Bush, his approval rating was down in the 20s. Did a Republican succeed George W. Bush? No. How about in 1968? Lyndon Baines Johnson, his net approval rating was negative. Did a Democrat succeed Lyndon Baines Johnson? No. How about in 52? Harry S. Truman, his approval rating was in the 20s, if not the upper teens. Did a Democrat succeed Harry S. Truman in 52? My memory, no. No, as Kate Baldwin says.
Diana.
No. Diana.
Separate.
Well
Close. Wrong time of the year.
Well played.
Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican, succeeded Harry S. Truman. So the bottom line is, for Kamala Harris to win, she'd have to break history, be a Democrat to succeed Joe Biden when Biden's approval rating is way underwater at this point.
Again, it could happen. It just doesn't in recent history for sure. Okay, registration numbers, Harry.
Yeah, Republicans have been registering voters in big, huge numbers. They have been gaining in party registration versus the Democrats in the swing states with party registration. We're talking Arizona. I think it's a 5-point. They've expanded their lead from 5 points from where it was back in 2020. How about Nevada? Big Republican registrations there. They like the early vote. How about North Carolina? Big Republican registration games. How about Pennsylvania? We spoke about it before a few months ago. Big Republican Party registration gains versus from where they were 4 years ago. So Republicans are putting more Republicans in the electorate. The Democratic number versus the Republican number has shrunk. And so the bottom line is, if Republicans win, come next week, Donald Trump comes next week, the signs all along will have been obvious. We would look at the right direction being very low, Joe Biden's approval rating being very low, and Republicans really registering numbers. You can't say you weren't warned.
Again, this is the data which supports the idea of a Trump victory. Tomorrow, viewers, you will get the other side.
Stay tuned.
Kate.
It's not even the content, but sometimes Harry's delivery is just it's very scary. You're just a very scary man. You're a very scary man.
Yeah, so there you have it. I mean, they're looking at that one, analyses that usually when the sitting president is at a certain threshold, which of course Biden is at that threshold, the party that the sitting president is part of does not win. That's typically what happens, and they bring up all of those examples. The comment Biden made that they're referring to was when he called all of Trump's supporters garbage, which was an incredibly stupid thing to do. Again, we're talking just from a political standpoint, from an election standpoint. That was an incredible, stupid thing to do. You know what that reminded me of? It reminds me of when Mitt Romney threw his chances away. For anyone that doesn't remember that, one of these ended Mitt Romney's campaign. Now, it was a much older version of what I just showed you, because it happened in 2012. So the 2012 version of this is what. And by the way, I think they were smaller then. They make them smaller than bigger again. I prefer the smaller variety. But anyway, when Mitt Romney was holding a private event, he said something. I forget the exact quote off the top of my head. It's not super important, but he said that 47% of the country is lazy and just wants a handout or something like that. This was to a private event to all of his rich donor friends. But one of the people who was tending bar there happened to decide, I think the public should know what this guy just said. So they recorded it on their phone. Then they posted it online. Then it went viral, and I think that might have been before we had a term for going viral. I don't know if we even called it that back then. I can't remember when we started using that. But again, this was back in 2012, and Mitt Romney lost largely. I mean, I think that was the turning point. I'm not saying that's the only reason Mitt Romney lost, but I'm saying I think that was the turning point in that freaking election. When that went viral and half the country just felt like Mitt Romney came at them, that really, really buried him. And I think, you're going to call every single person who voted for Donald Trump, you're going to call them all garbage. Not smart. And I know Joe Biden's not the one on the ballot, but he's still a guy. I mean, he's still like the main guy in the party. He's still a main figurehead of the party. And he's still, Kamala Harris isn't really doing much to distance herself from the guy. So that's still the party in power. So even though she is by definition not the incumbent herself, she's part of the incumbent party and she's part of the incumbent administration because she's vice president. So yeah, that does not bode well for Kamala Harris's favor, which is one of the reasons I'm leaning. I think Trump has a better chance at this point, even though, and by the way, there's tons of, anyone who watched any inkling of Trump's MSG rally, the Madison Square Garden rally, that was disturbing beyond comprehension. The stuff that was being said on that rally, America's for Americans, the stuff that they were saying was disturbing. But there is no institution better at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory than the Democratic Party. They've just always, they can't beat Republicans. Like it's remarkable. And it's because both parties have the same owners. It's because both parties have the same owners, which is Wall Street. So they both do the bidding of Wall Street. So it's just like rugged neoliberalism or straight up neo-fascism. And it's a ping pong volley between the two. And we're the ball just going back and forth. And here's the crazy part. Neither one really wants to lose the volley. Neither what they want to keep it going because that just sort of keeps the status quo going. That keeps the gravy train rolling and that keeps the system that they want to keep in place. So here's something else. Now, this has been going on a lot. Let's go to the Joe Rogan thing, Colin. Let's go to the Joe Rogan piece. We can watch you said the New York Post has a video. Yeah, let's go ahead and watch that video.
Joe Rogan has declined an interview with Vice President Kamala Harris after her campaign made specific demands he wasn't willing to meet. According to Rogan, Harris's team proposed that he travel to her for the interview and limit their conversation to just 1 hour. Rogan, however, said he feels the best way to host Harris would be in his Austin studio, like other high-profile guests. He shared his response on X, adding that he hopes to still make it happen and just have a nice conversation to get to know her as a human being. This rejection comes shortly after former President Donald Trump joined Rogan for a record-breaking 3-hour sit-down last Friday. The Trump interview, one of the most highly anticipated in the recent months, has already amassed over 37 million views on YouTube. Rogan's refusal to compromise with Harris's team followed weeks of rumored negotiations, suggesting that her team may have decided to step back after reaching an impasse.
So here's my take on this. And I have a feeling not everybody's going to like this or agree with this, but this is just objectively the way I see it. And this has nothing to do with whether or not you like Joe Rogan. That's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. But here's just the objective truth. Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world. That's an objective fact. The guy has the biggest podcast in the world, and it is based here in the United States. If you are running for president, doing that podcast should be a reasonable priority. And he does his podcast a certain way. He's done it that way for a very, very long time. So, yeah, Kamala Harris should set aside a handful of hours to go to Austin, Texas, and do the biggest podcast in the freaking world. This has nothing to do. Maybe you don't like Joe Rogan. Maybe you do. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. There's plenty of stuff I've seen on the Joe Rogan show that I strongly disagree with, especially as of recent. And I watched some segments of that Trump interview. I did not enjoy any of it. I thought it was kind of cringe, to tell you the truth. But that's irrelevant. That doesn't matter. What matters is it's the biggest podcast in the freaking world. If Joe Rogan invited me on his podcast, I would drop what I was doing and go do his podcast. You know why? Because it's the biggest podcast in the freaking world. And it's my job to not pass up an opportunity like that. So if it's my job to be that way, it's definitely Kamala Harris's job to be that way. I'm sorry. People are saying, well, she's the vice president. Why can't he accommodate her? Why should he? Why should he? Why should Joe Rogan accommodate her? He has no reason. He has the biggest podcast in the world. And he does it a certain way. And he goes, hey, look, this is the way I do it. And it's the biggest podcast in the world. So I don't know. I'm going to assume that I'm doing this right. She should go to him. I mean, I'm sorry. This isn't some, and I know there's going to be a bunch of people complaining about the stuff they've seen on the Joe Rogan show that they don't like. It's irrelevant, y'all. It's not relevant. I'll repeat it again. I know it's going to be in the comments anyway. I know everything I just said. People will just the point. I know that's going to happen. Whether Joe Rogan is your favorite podcast in the world or your least is completely irrelevant. What matters is it's the job of a politician to go after votes. And if you're not going to make the biggest podcast in the world a reasonable priority, that's a mistake. I'm sorry. It just is. And Joe Rogan doesn't owe her anything. He just doesn't. People are like, well, why doesn't he just do what she said? Why'd he turn it down? Because this is what he does. This is what he offers. But she's the vice president. Okay, Joe Rogan's not running for office. Somebody said this because I tweeted a similar sentiment to what I'm saying now. And somebody's like, well, if Joe Rogan was a serious journalist, he's not. Joe Rogan's not a journalist. He's a comedian who does UFC commentary. And he has a very, very popular podcast that whether you like it or not, a lot of people are listening to. And you would be able to reach a lot of people. So, look, this is not an endorsement of anything, but this is just objectively saying what this reminds me of, because I'm drawing a couple points of association here. First of all, what Joe Biden did reminds me of Mitt Romney's 47% comment that buried his campaign. What Kamala Harris is actively doing by refusing to just show up to go on Joe Rogan's show and wanting it to be her way, it kind of reminds me a little bit, even though it's not exactly the same thing, but it reminds me a little bit of when Liz Warren refused to go on Fox News. Remember when she was like, I'm not going to go on Fox News. And most people thought that was absolutely ridiculous, myself included. I was like, look, I don't like Fox News. That's irrelevant. Whether you like it or not, which I don't like it. Again, I think the entire structure should be illegal. But whether you like it or not, Fox News is a major news network, one of 3 in the U.S. So if you are a politician, you do not have the luxury of saying, I'm going to boycott Fox News. That's absurd. And when Liz Warren did that political stunt, it pretty much buried her campaign that didn't have a lot going for it in the first place. I mean, she wasn't doing great. But that became a laughingstock when she did that, as it should have. It was an absurd sentiment. This is kind of similar to that. Well, come to me and we're going to talk for an hour. No, thank you. I mean, well, why is it Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan's not a serious journalist. Exactly. He's not a journalist at all. He's not a news show. He's yeah, you get the idea. So that's my thought on that. I just think, why would you not want to prioritize to a reasonable level? I'm not saying she should drop everything and just go there. But there's a week of time. You should set aside the appropriate hours to just go to Austin, Texas and do the interview. You're the vice president. You have all the resources in the world, all the money in the world. You can fly somewhere in a second if you want to. Not literally a second, but there's still the time factor. But, like I said, if Joe Rogan called me today and said, hey, I got an opening on my show tomorrow, and he went, I would go be there. It's a lot harder for me to get a flight to Austin, Texas than it is for Kamala Harris. A lot harder. It's a lot harder financially for me than it would be for her. I would feel it. She wouldn't. And I'm just a freaking comedian who streams from a living room. She's trying to win one of the most significant contests in the world, which is sad, by the way. It's sad that the president of the United States is one of the most powerful people in the world, and it's absolutely criminal that our politics has any bearing on the rest of the world, because our politics is absolutely repulsive and disgusting, but that's the way it is. That's just the way it is. So you don't have to like it. It's fine if you don't like it, but it's the way it is. You don't have to like Fox News, but if you're a politician, you got to go on Fox News. You don't have to like the Joe Rogan Experience, but if you're a politician, you should probably want to go on that show. All right. So, and I'm not saying if Trump wins, I'm not saying the Joe Rogan appearance was the difference, but it sure as hell didn't hurt. It sure as hell didn't hurt. All right. So let's go to, let's do some of the Status Coup swing state footage here, Colin. By the way, smash the like button. Leave me a super chat. Give me your thoughts on everything. I want to talk to y'all. I can't really see the chat because of the new system we have here. So I'll get to see your super chats. Please say hello. Please help support this show. And by the way, Status Coup has been on the ground a ton this year. Nobody has done on the ground coverage the way Status Coup has, but we can't keep doing it without your support. On the ground journalism is expensive. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of resources. Please, if you are able to become a member, go to statuscoup.com/join. Become a member today. There are $5 a month levels, $10 a month levels. For those that are able, there are $20 a month level or $179 annual level. Please, statuscoup.com/join. $5. Yeah, that's like about 16 cents a day. I know times are tough for a lot of people, but if you got an extra $5 a month that you won't miss, it's going to an amazing cause. statuscoup.com/join. So let's go ahead and see some of the swing state coverage. Let's do a little bit of a collage, if you will.
As I watched that video, I saw another black man holding Jordan's arm, assisting him.
Shame.
And at no point did nobody say, that's enough. He can't move anymore. He's not a threat if he was. They say if you see something, say something. I said if you see something, do something. Come on. And when I said if you see something, do something, I'm saying if you see somebody doing something to us, do something.
Do something.
Everything that comes up in this city is due to capitalism that Trump fights for.
Yes.
Not Kamala, Trump.
Yes.
Right.
But they have no idea. They're like fish in the water. But once the fish is out of the water, then, oh my God, there's no water. When they will lose the freedom, they will understand what it means living in the freedom.
Yes.
But immediately the company went right down there, here, sign this gag order and we'll give you water. But if you talk to anybody, now here's the kicker, you talk to anybody, we'll yank the water out of here, we'll kill your dang gun, you won't get your royalties or anything else on. You can't talk to DEP, talk to a lawyer, you can't talk to anybody, sign this piece of paper.
They were not notifying families because when the health commissioner ultimately resigned, one of the reasons why he resigned is because they found thousands of letters notifying families of blood poisoning that were still in the health department and weren't mailed.
Okay, so about 6 months after that, I developed asthma. and now have to take an inhaler every single day, and I smell it all the time.
DeAndre was my first child. He been with me a long, long time. And then to wake up like he did, he was so happy that morning. He took his medicine. He was telling jokes. Then 10 minutes later, he just passed out. Then it was the last words I ever heard my son say.
It might not be as bad here as it is in a lot of other places in any particular single category, but it's just a cumulative effect that I think that makes it a good example of what's happening all over the country. This is how democracy and health and quality of life is dying.
And that's interesting because most of the media is focused on Michigan and Dearborn, which we've been, but it's a pretty big issue here too.
I believe that Harris's refusal to differentiate herself from Biden in any meaningful way, and very specifically not to call for a ceasefire or an arms embargo, will cost her Michigan, but it might well cost her Pennsylvania and Wisconsin.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers.
So there you have it. Swing state tour, and of course you can see all that footage over right here on Status Coup. I was gonna try to highlight a few things in the chat here. I'm kind of scrolling around here. Let's see here. Some of you guys are giving shout outs to Lucy. I appreciate that. No left in U.S. politics. That's true. I mean, I don't think we ever really had them, to tell you the truth. Let's see here. Let's see. Public relations ads. Yeah, no kidding. You didn't used to be legal to have pharmaceutical ads on TV. It has been for a long time now. I quit watching cable news years ago. Yeah, I mean, I just watch it for like the critical lens. I usually only see segments. I don't actually sit and watch it. You didn't vote in the poll. Well, vote in the poll. We got a nice little poll going. Who do you think's gonna win? I'm curious what people think. I am curious what people are thinking. I think it's gonna be Trump by a little bit, but I could be wrong. I mean, things change every 30 seconds this time. It's been. I mean, I will say this. This has been the most disgusting election season I've ever lived through. It's just been gross on so many levels. The choices are just utterly repulsive. And they have been for a very, very long time, but they keep somehow getting, I think, even worse. And yeah. So, but I think it's going to be Trump, unfortunately. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. There's a bunch of, so unfortunately the chat works weird for me on this thing. Like there's something I wanted to highlight that someone said, and I can't, it just disappeared on me. It disappeared. I tell you, it disappeared. All right, let's go to RFK, the one of the scariest characters in United States politics, in my opinion. The fact that this guy has become normalized is just so frightening on multiple levels. And again, this goes into, here's the thing about Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump as an individual stands for absolutely nothing other than his own brand and his own ego. I think he has no principles whatsoever. So when you're looking at a character like Donald Trump, you got to really look at who's he surrounding himself with. And he has assembled a who's who of some of the most ridiculous freaking ghouls out there. J.D. Vance, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, a bunch of warmongers. I mean, this guy, and by the way, it's just a continuation of 2016, which was no walk in the Roger Stone. I mean, this is his crew. This is who he's surrounding himself with. And then before that, it was Mike Pence. No, if he gets in office again, he's going to go through officials and stuff like that, like their pairs of socks, because that's what he always does. I think because he's just sort of a by-the-book narcissist. And a by-the-book narcissist is just difficult to work with. So he's going to burn bridges. He's going to make enemies. That's what he did the first time. He'll do it again this time. But man, he sure did get a bestie with RFK. RFK, that guy that some people were saying RFK's no sellout. RFK's anti-establishment, which is hilarious. RFK is the establishment. He's part of one of the biggest political dynasties in the frickin' world. He was born with a level of wealth and resources most people could only imagine. That's why every frickin' story he tells has the same theme. Every story he tells, whether it involves him traveling and getting a brain worm or him putting a bear in his car, everything has to do with, I'm really rich and can live my life without consequences. That's every story that guy tells. And his stories were so ridiculous. Even Roseanne Barr was like, what the hell is this dude? So let's go to his video, Colin.
The key that I think that President Trump has promised me is control of the public health agencies, which are HHS and its sub-agencies, CDC, FDA, NIH, and a few others, and then also the USDA, which is key to making America healthy, because we've got to get off of seed oils, and we've got to get off of pesticide-intensive agriculture.
I actually agree with one point he made about, like the mass agriculture thing. But here's something that is very, very sad. RFK is a pseudoscience nut job. I'm sorry. Like there's no delicate way to put it. This guy, and he's been doing this forever. I mean, he's been doing this for years and years. He is a straight up anti-vaxxer, always has been. He cherry picks and he cherry picks data. He has been debunked time and time again. He thinks that the free market will solve climate change. What does that mean? That is a freaking eugenics dog whistle. That's what that is. That basically means, poor people are just going to die. He has spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories around COVID. I mean, this guy is, and people think he's relevant for whatever reason. That they cherry pick like one or two things about the guy. Maybe they like some of his views on COVID, or maybe they like some of his views on one selected thing, or they single out something he did in the legal space over 40 freaking years ago. And they overlook the entire big picture of this guy, that this guy is a warmongering, genocide-loving lunatic. And here's the really sad thing. Our food culture is something that should be talked about that we never talk about. A lot of the ingredients in our food is illegal in other countries. And it is so sad that now the face of that movement, again, it is a pseudoscience peddling, self-interested plutocrat like RFK. And yes, that's what he is. And I don't know how many stands that guy has left, but for this entire, ever since he came to the surface, a lot of us have been saying, this guy's not what do you think he is? And I had some friends that were into RFK. And I said it, I'm like, this guy's not what you think he is. I'm telling you, he's not what you think he is. Then they saw him, they heard more of his foreign policy views, and they were like, oh, yeah, he's not. And at this point, I mean, because people are like, he'll never sell out. He'll never. And meanwhile, soon as he's offered a gig by Trump, there he is. He tried to be a Democrat. They didn't want him anymore. He tried to be a libertarian. They didn't want him. So he just went MAGA. This is the very definition of the word grifter. And I know there are still some people that think, oh, no, he's just looking to make a difference any way he can. No, he's not. No, he's not. That guy has had ridiculous take after ridiculous take. He is pro-capitalist. He's anti-Medicare for all. He had no economic vision at all because he's just some rich guy who can't relate to anything. He's against climate action. He's pro-war. His public health plan would just be a bunch of pseudoscience nonsense by whoever's funding him. You realize big pharma adjacent institutions fund him. Major anti-vax funders fund him. He has ties to Wall Street, ties to the CIA. There's still people who don't see this guy for what he is, and it is frightening. It is frightening. So let's go over to TYT. I usually hate doing stuff like this, by the way. I usually hate talking about other YouTube shows, but this has been something. So Ana Kasparian for a while has been doing her whole I'm leaving the left tour. Ana Kasparian for a while now has been basically spreading propaganda a bunch. Her local views here in Los Angeles are ridiculous. Her and Cenk endorsed Rick Caruso, which, by the way, I talked about that a lot. Some people said, Ron, I think you're being too hard on Cenk Uygur for that. And look, here's the deal. If you're going to endorse a Republican billionaire developer, knowing what such a thing could do to a city, and you're going to endorse it anyway because you know that someone in your tax bracket will be slightly better off with that guy versus the other person. You'll still get with the mayor that we have, with Karen Bass, the developers get 95% of what they want. With someone like Rick Caruso, they would have gotten 100% of what they wanted. So we're talking like they're still going to get 95% of what they want, but that 5% does make a difference. I'm not going to let that go if you're going to endorse that. I'm just not. I mean, that's a terrible thing to do. And then say that that's the home of progressives. And now Ana Kasparian has gone on this huge right-wing shift. And I don't have a problem with that as an individual. She can have whatever views she wants. That's her business. My problem is when they go around, and Cenk Uygur said recently, 95% of the left agrees with Ana. 95% of the left agrees with me. It's just this fringe that doesn't agree with us. And you know what? When you have millions of subscribers, that's a big freaking problem, because guess what? The Overton window in this country is so far to the freaking right, they needed to buy a new camera to zoom out far enough. And when you're going to call yourself the home of progressives, and you're going to tell people that 95% of the left is anti-union, 95% of the left is pro-developer, 95% of the left is pro-propaganda, 95% of the left wants to antagonize trans people and blame them for everything, 95% of the left is going to bust a union, 95% of the left is against rent control. That's not 95% of the left. I'm sorry. It's not. So that's a freaking problem. When you have millions of subscribers, you call yourself the home of progressives, and you're like, oh, yeah, we're progressives against rent control, progressives against living wages, progressives against unions. So that's a freaking problem. And by the way, whenever I talk about this, some people, one person said this to me, Dr. Lowe. They were just like, well, you're so unappreciative. How dare you? Look at all TYT Network did for you. And you know what? I appreciate that person bringing that up, because I think that's noteworthy to say. I feel bad saying all this stuff, because when aggressive progressives was going on, now a lot of things have changed. I quit the Jimmy Dore show years ago. A lot of things have changed in that space, a ton. But one happy yesterday, there was a show called Aggressive Progressives. There was a lot more stuff going on at TYT Maine. That's how I met Jordan. It was a much different time. And I had a lot of great opportunities because of that time. I had a lot of great memories there. Every time I've ever met Cenk Uygur, he's been nothing but cool to me. I don't, on a personal level, I don't have a bad thing to say about the guy. That's why it bums me out when you see their network doing this stuff. It's just a freaking bummer. And, if Ana Kasparian wants to be right-wing now, that's fine. That's her choice. But don't make it out like that's actually the perspective of the left. I mean, when she did her whole, change or whatever, I actually appreciated her at least being honest that she's not on the left. At least be honest that that's what's going on. And look, I'll say this, you know, there is so much more money on the right, and it's always freaking been that way. It's been that way since before the freaking blogosphere. It's been that way from the 1980s to Dennis Miller to evangelical preachers to freaking present. To Tim Pool, to Dave Rubin, to Ana Kasparian, it doesn't freaking matter. There's just more money on the right, and the same thing goes in comedy. All right? If I really wanted to, I could be in New York City right now, writing for Fox News, probably making about 10 times the salary I make now. But I don't do that. You know why? Because I'd have to live with myself. But when people are just kind of looking for a brand and people are just kind of looking for an opportunity, there's so much more money on the right. So that's why a lot of your favorite YouTubers go to the right. There's more money in it. All right, so let's go to this most recent clip.
Notion of a fascist. Because look, if we're just going to use fascist toward anyone we dislike, all right, then the word doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay, what do you want me to say, Anna? You want me to say wannabe dictator?
Sure, you can say wannabe dictator, but I don't even think he wants to be a dictator.
Of course he does. That's what you do when you lose an election and you go, oh, I got fake electors and I'd like to terminate the Constitution and bring out the tanks and use martial law against American citizens and shoot protesters. I mean, if that's not fascist, then I guess the word just shouldn't exist.
But was he able to do those things?
Trump's
no, his rhetoric is awful.
Okay, if you don't want to be called fascist, stop saying fascist things. It's not that hard.
Okay.
Not that hard. Oh, here, let me have dinner with Nick Fuentes, who's a Nazi, Kanye, who's a Nazi, and let me say there's good people on the Nazi side. Oh, it could be pro-Confederate guys. Might be guys who are pro-slavery who are good guys. Let me do all of these things. Let me say that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our nation, a Nazi term that is only used in the past by Nazis, and then say I'm gonna ban Muslims, I'm gonna do this and this and this to all the other ethnic groups, and then go, oh, I can't believe you called me a fascist. No, he is a fascist. I'm very happy to call him a fascist.
All right. There.
All right. All right, I'm not gonna get back.
So for those of you who maybe I didn't set it up on the tee enough, here is Ana Kasparian taking offense to calling Donald Trump a fascist. She was making the case that he's not a fascist. I agreed with Cenk Uygur there. I totally, and shout out to Cenk for not letting it go. And I think later in that clip where you see Cenk just sort of looking off into the distance, my guess is he's wondering, do I need to get a new co-host? My guess is that might be what he's wondering. And maybe, just maybe, he's thinking, maybe I shouldn't say things like most of the left agrees with Ana Kasparian. Maybe I shouldn't say things like that. I hope that's what he was thinking. I really do, because in that clip, what Cenk Uygur was saying was right on. I mean, you know, the word fascism can be traced back to Benito Mussolini. It literally means the marriage between the corporation and the state. And then some years went by and they took out that reference to corporations. This is most wonderfully captured in the movie The Big Short by Adam McKay. They took out all references to corporations, I think because they didn't want a bunch of people in the United States going, wait a second. Wait, what? Fascism means what? Wait, oh crap. They don't want a bunch of people in the US to realize that they live in a fascist project. They don't want people to realize that. So they took out that whole corporations part. And here's the deal. Dr. Gabriel Rockhill sums this up way better than I can, and he can sum this up way more eloquently than I can. But I'm going to do my best to kind of paraphrase the way he puts it. Fascism's not like one thing. It's like there's the fascism. No, there's the fascism. No, there's the fascism is a multi-pronged situation. Okay, and what fascism is it is basically the marriage of the corporation and the state. That's what it's always has been. And so what you have is a situation where with Donald Trump, you have the abrupt, the in-your-face, the kind of social fascism that he shows by putting the country under martial law, by suggesting to shoot protesters, by calling America is for Americans, by having Nazi sympathies and having these fringe right-wing militia groups who like him, stuff like that. That's your sort of on-the-nose fascism. And then you have the more subtle business fascism, and that's represented by both the Republican and Democrat establishments. So calling Donald Trump a fascist is 110% accurate. It always freaking has been. He is a fascist. And he's a fascist he checks every fascist box. So this whole, you can't call Trump a fascist, and by the way, she's doubled down on it. I mean, I checked her Twitter before the show today because I was curious. She's doubling down on her whole Trump's not a fascist thing. Why? Because she wants to make a full pivot to the right. When she tweets this stuff, this subtly pro-Trump stuff, she gets a ton of response. When she's tweeting something critical of Trump, she gets a lot less. All right. And this is what she does. See, for someone like me, it's a lot different for somebody like me because this is just a part of my creative quilt. All right. I'm not a political commentator necessarily. I'm a comedian and a writer, and I write scripts and I produce movies and I try to sell TV shows and I do stand-up comedy and I'm actually producing a play. I'll do a plug later for everything. And then I do stuff like this. This is where I get my political itch. And for a long time, I worked dominantly in the podcasting space. Eventually was pretty unhappy doing so. So I walked away from it. I quit a lot of it. I even quit Get Your News On with Ron and started a new show that I like a lot better called 1000 with Ron Placone. And then what happened was Jordan called me, wanted me to do stuff with Status Coup, and I'm glad he did because now I have a nice balance in my life because what happened was I really missed you guys. When I kind of walked away from it, I missed you guys. I really missed the viewers and I missed the listeners. The space itself is toxic beyond fucking measure, but you guys are freaking awesome and I missed you. So now I get to scratch that itch on some live streams on my own and on Status Coup, and I get to scratch the political itch there, and then I get to focus on other creative projects that I like as well, and that all combines to give me a nice, happy, creative life. Someone like Ana Kasparian, and I'm not trying to single her out. It's everybody in that space. This is what they do. This is their freaking lane. This is their bread and butter, and it always will be. So a lot of them eventually go right because that's where the money is. Always been that way. Always will be that way. In this country, always will be that way. So yeah, there you go. Interesting TYT clip. This is also a little bit prior, she had a meltdown when somebody suggested she was being too soft on Ben Shapiro, and she just freaked out about it. She just completely freaked out about it. So I think this is her just making her her right-wing pivot. This is just what she's doing. And that's what it is. That's just what it is. We'll see what happens. But again, my thing is, and on a personal level, I feel bad saying this stuff. I wish I could just look back on, TYT and be like, oh, I'm glad they're up to some cool stuff. But I can't do that because when you have these views that would be considered at best center right anywhere else, even in the US for crying out loud, and you're trying to make it out like you're a home for progressives, that's not a good thing. That's pushing our Overton window to the right. And I have a freaking problem with that. And going even more big picture, I have been paying attention to this space, the online media space, independent media space, whatever you want to call it. I've been paying attention to this space for 20 years. For a lot of that time, I was just a fly on the wall. For a lot of it, I wasn't. And I have seen that space go from this obscure thing that nobody knew if it was ever going to become anything to become a juggernaut in the media landscape. And what did we largely do with this newfound power? Well, we just established a big platform to dunk on each other on Twitter and to cancel each other and to just make rage porn. And that's largely what's going on. I think that overall, the independent media landscape has done more harm than good. I think a lot of it is just hot garbage. And it's one of the many, many reasons that I walked away from it. But But one of the reasons I'm here is because I believe that despite everything I just said, there are diamonds in the rough. And there's actually a lot of diamonds in the rough. I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom here, folks. And one of those diamonds in the rough is right here on Status Coup. I wanted to just, I had planned on just kind of walking away from the space completely. But then when Jordan reached out to me, I realized, well, Status Coup does firsthand journalism, and I really appreciate that. I like what Status Coup does. So I'd be willing to be part of that. And I missed y'all. So let's go to the chat. On that note, let's go to the chat. I already gave you guys my prediction. I think that Trump's going to win. I take no joy in that prediction, but I think it's 55-45. I mean, honestly, 2 days from now, it might be different. 2 days from now, it might be different. Zofpai. Okay, Ron, you made your point. I think most of us get it. That's from a while ago. I don't even know what specifically you're referring to, but thank you for that. Sometimes you gotta really drive it home. You gotta drive it home sometimes. But I appreciate you getting it. The chat doesn't work for me on this thing. What I get is I get a handful of things that just go on repeat, so I don't even know what something's from. And then all right, so let's go to the super chats, Colin. Can you put those on the screen for me? Here we go. Fly Trumper Fly, what's up? Good to see you. I hope you are well. Always great to hear from you. When Trump won, voters didn't want to admit they were voting for him. That's true. I think there's still a lot of that, actually. Now Repubs want to admit they're voting against him. Yeah. Do they, though? A bunch of them are admitting they are, right? I mean, like Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris, which is pretty frightening. But yeah, that's amazing. Like, hey, Dick Cheney's going to endorse someone and it's not even the GOP option. If I had a time machine, it could go back to 2004 to visit myself in Italy, where I was debating whether or not I was going to move there. Or actually, it was 2006, not 2004. Like, that's important. And someone would have told me, and future me would have been like, hey, in 2024, Dick Cheney is going to endorse somebody for president, and it's not even going to be the Republican. I would have said, I think I'm going to take my opportunity to move here. Now you might be thinking, Rod, Italy is run by a fascist right now. I know. I never said I like the prime minister. I just said it's where I had the opportunity to move. And by the way, even that fascist thinks that our foreign policy is too freaking far. It's how nuts we are here in the United States. All right, sorry. Let me get to the rest of the super chat. Now Republicans won't admit they're voting against him. It could be a Kamala victory. It totally could be. Like I said, 55-45. I'm not even putting money on this bet, Fly Chopper Fly. So, like, I'm totally, like, there's still almost half a chance. I'm just saying, if I got to pick one for the sake of the poll, I'm thinking Trump by a little bit. That could change between now and next week. That's how fast things are. Something crazy could happen right after this stream. Something crazy might have happened while we've been on live. Usually if something nuts happened, Jordan texts me. So I don't have any text from Jordan. Hopefully he is spending some much needed time with his wife and child. That guy, like I said, every day since 1972, Jordan Sheraton has been at work. All right. So, but we have Gaza plus people, ethnics who had a better economy under Trump. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I think the economy was pretty bad under Trump. I think it's gotten even worse just because of the aftermath of the pandemic. I mean, I think at the end of the day, but yeah, people kind of, I mean, it's really messed up how we really are, like Gore Vidal said, the United States of amnesia. It's just basically you take a chance on a Wall Street sponsored party, your life doesn't get any better, and you put up with the same bullshit. So then you just take a chance on the other Wall Street sponsored party that doesn't do anything for you either. And then you just rinse and repeat. Well, took a chance on the Democrats. My life didn't get any better. I'm going to take a chance on Republicans now. I took a chance on Republicans. My life didn't get any better. Blah, 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 blah. Travis, what's up? $5 in a Philly if you can afford it. I will take you up on that, Travis. You know what? Email me. I can't. This chat's too hard. Email me, Travis. We will do a thing because I'm. If all goes as planned, I'll be back at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2025. So we'll make an election bet, and then we'll make even on it. We'll make even on it in Edinburgh. But you email me. So you know how to reach me. Ron Placone. Yeah, just go to my website. It's ronplacone.com. All right, more. Teresa, what's up? How are you? Hi, Ron and community. Ooh, I like that. I've never heard that one before. Community. I like that. It kind of sounds like a disease a little bit, but I still like it. I think maybe we could come, but I'm into it. It'll grow, I think. All right. Taking my dog to the vet. Oh, no. To get sutras? What's that? Am I saying that right? Or is that like, I'm not sure what
Sutures,
that is.
stitches.
How do you pronounce it?
I believe it's sutures.
Sutras. Is that how you say it? Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm just a pleb. I just say stitches. Look at me. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad they're coming out. No more Conehead. Oh yeah. They hate that. Lucy actually has her vet appointment on Friday. I don't want to say that too loud. She might hear. I think that's a word she knows. She has her annual on Friday. She hates the vet. And the vet, it's one of those things, whenever I call the vet, I know that they have a really fun note history on her. Because I always have to request a certain vet. There's a certain vet that she is her most well-behaved for. And I have to request him because she's the most well-behaved for him. And I'm like, so I want to see so-and-so because she is the most well-behaved for him. And then I go, and by well-behaved, I mean not well-behaved at all, but less misbehaved. And it's so funny. She's the sweetest cat. She's the most social, sweet cat. If somebody walked through the door, she would go up to them and purr. But she hates the vet. Oh my God, does she hate the vet? As she's gotten older, she's gotten a little more mellow. She has a little more less fight in her. But you know what? She's still got some spunk, that gal, and we still have to give her a little sedative for the vet visits. Even at 18, she's 18 years old. We still got to do that. Chris, what's up, buddy? It's always good to see you. Always great to hear from you, Chris. Member for 40 months. Thank you so freaking much for that. Fight the power level. Message. Love to see you behind the mic again, Ron. Support real independent journalism. Join as a member if you can. StatusCoup.com/join. Thank you so much for that, Chris. And Chris is one of the people who has seen my movie, which will be out to everyone soon. I can't wait to make more announcements around that. It's going to be out to everyone soon. Shout out to everyone who came to all the screenings, by the way, whether it was in one of the cities we came to or virtually. I know Chris was part of one of the virtual screenings, and thank you so much for that, Chris. It was awesome to join everyone today. I can't. Sorry. Samud Sterling. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I got to look at it on the screen, and I'm getting like a small version of it. So your handles are actually really small letters for me. So if I miss a letter or something, I apologize in advance. Look up the Kamala Brat collab. That is the energy Anna is giving. Blue MAGA is Zach is what? So I'm not sure I know what that is. Zachism. What's Zachism? Is that who is Zach? Is that something I should know but don't? Or do you mean Zionism and that's like you're kind of spelling it differently as like so it doesn't get flagged or whatever? I don't know. But I hope I didn't say something terrible, too. Thank you for that. I'm not familiar with the Kamala Brat collab, but I will check it out. And yeah, hey, if Ana Kasparian wants to be right wing, that's fine. Just be honest that that's what you're doing. That's all. Samad, you're back. Good to see you. Another name for our republic is oligarch. Absolutely. We are by definition an oligarchy. We are a straight up fascist oligarchy. And I would say we're also a theocracy. I would say all those accurately describe the USA. And I'm not trying to be, that's just the way it is. Like I'm not trying to be like a Debbie Downer. It's just like, when you understand what you're dealing with, that's a better way to solve it. At the end of the day, capitalism has caused the mess we're in. And we are facing climate catastrophe. So how do you solve that problem? Well, guess what? There's actually a word for it. It's called eco-socialism. It means a society where you are stewards to the earth and you emphasize human need above all else. That's the solution. And there's literally a term for it. So yeah, I feel you. But we are in our oligarchy. We live in a full fascist police state, 80 plus cop cities, abso-freaking-lutely, mass surveillance, G side, no resources. Amen to that. You are 110% right. You ever come across someone who feels like we don't have enough? Did you ever meet someone like that? It's like, I've met people like that where they feel like we're not policed enough, and I'm like, what planet are you living on? I still think there is a third plot for Trump. What do you mean by that? Like a third plot, like how he's going to win or how he's going to lose, or do you think someone else is going to win? I wish.
Might
I wish
be
more than anything.
might be referring to assassination attempt, maybe because there's been 2 so far. I could be wrong.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say something like that. We could get in trouble for. I mean, if you're just speaking from an objective standpoint, like I think something like that might happen. I think that's fine. But yeah, who knows? I mean, it's been freaking crazy. It's been freaking crazy. And I don't wish any violence upon anyone. But yeah, I mean, crazier things have happened. RFK, I want to read this one. RFK seemed like a plant to suck third-party votes with fake polls showing he has. Oh man, see, it just jumped on me. So we're using a different streaming system than we typically have been, and there's a reason for it. We got to use it because it's better for on the ground stuff. So I get it. But one of the drawbacks of this is the chat just jumps on you. And if you want to read something, you're fucked. There was something that I wanted to read that someone left. It jumped on me. I couldn't find it again. And then it just sort of has like a loop of things. So some of your chats, like I have to really, it's hard to know when they're from anyway. All right. I wanted to read something someone said about RFK. And it just jumped on me. Are there any other super chats, Colin?
And that is all of them.
That is all of them.
Yeah, it must have been from earlier because I don't see an RFK comment, so it might have been earlier.
Well, if you're out there, I wanted to read. It was something about sucking third-party voters in. But yeah, I think really he was just desperately looking for a lane, and nobody wanted anything to do with him. So he went to MAGA. They were like, "We'll take you," and he's like, "Well, that's fine. I have no integrity or principles whatsoever." And that's what happened. That's what happened. And by the way, if you're still one of those people who is holding out for, the mental gymnastics I've heard for RFK. I mean, you hear the guy, the Palestinian people are the most pampered people on earth. RFK said that. They're like, that's not what he meant. He really does want to end he really does want to end the genocide. He does? Yeah, no, he really does. Listen to the stuff he's saying. That's code. He's trying to he repeats some ridiculous anti-Semitic conspiracy about COVID. He's not really pushing pseudoscience. He's not really. No, really. When you really look at what he's really saying, when you really look, he's an environmentalist. The guy who says the free market will solve climate change. That's what he means by that is it's the most amazing pretzel logic I've ever freaking seen. And people do that for all their politicians. People do pretzel logic for Trump. People do pretzel logic for Harris. They do that for all of them. But if you find yourself having to do pretzel logic for somebody, realize that maybe they're not what you think they are. Now, if you have to correct bullshit propaganda, that's a different story. But when you find yourself doing pretzel logic for someone, maybe they're just not what you thought they were. I had one of those moments. Well, first of all, I mean, I used to think Tulsi Gabbard was something she wanted. She wasn't. That was years ago. I never voted for her, fortunately. But I used to think she was something she wasn't. But man, I mean, I'm a big Smiths fan. I love the music. And I love Morrissey's solo work. A lot of the music. And over the years, Morrissey would say something freaking ridiculous. And I'm like, I think they're taking him out of context. That's not right. Finally, I accepted. He's just kind of a right-wing douchebag. He's just... I can still enjoy the music, separate the art from the artist. But yeah, he comes off as kind of a jerk. And it's to the point where, Johnny Marr kind of gives off the opposite vibe. He seems like a great freaking dude. And I don't blame Johnny Marr for not wanting to have a Smiths reunion. As happy as I would have been to see a Smiths reunion, I don't blame Johnny Marr for being like, I don't want to freaking tour with this guy because he said shitty, condescending things to me about me in public for years now. I'm not going to work with him. Anyway, all right, that was a side. My point is, some of you were like, we don't fault. We have no idea what you're talking about. But My point is, sometimes when you find yourself doing the pretzel logic for people, they're just not what you freaking think they are. Guys, I will make a few announcements. First of all, anyone in the Los Angeles area, I have a show on December 15th. And here's something really exciting. My movie Left It Wall is going to be coming out soon for everybody. You're going to be able to watch it anywhere, and I will, as soon as I can announce that, I will, and you will know exactly where you can see it. But my movie Left It Wall will be coming out. But the way production works is usually you finish something and you're already working on the next thing. The next thing that I'm working on is a documentary I can't say more about now, but I'll be able to announce soon. And the other thing I'm working on is a play/film called Termination Fee. We're going to make it as a film, and we're going to make it as a play that we're hoping to take to Edinburgh in 2025. Where Travers, maybe you'll lose a bet to me. We'll see. Or maybe I'll lose it to you. We'll find out. But we have a play called Termination Fee. Me and two of my colleagues, Andrew Saxon and Sarah K. Godot, both of whom were in Left It Wall. And all I'm going to say about it is a blistering commentary on the American healthcare system. And we are going to be previewing part 1 of that play. It's in 4 different parts. We are going to be previewing part 1 on December 15th at Flappers Comedy Club. It's not a very long segment. It's only about, 12 to 15 minutes long. So we're going to be doing a night of stand-up. Graham Elwood's on that show. I'm on that show. And, of course, Sarah and Drew are on that show. Some other comics will be there as well. There's going to be some stand-up comedy to open the night. Then we're going to do part 1 of the play. Then we're going to do a little Q&A after, and that'll be the night. That's on December 15th. You can get discounted tickets at my website now, RonPlacone.com. RonPlacone.com for tickets to the December 15th show in Los Angeles. Makes a great holiday gift. Get tickets for your loved ones for the holiday season and come hang out with us at Flappers Comedy Club December 15th. Again, RonPlacone.com for tickets. Guys, thank you so much for your super chats. Colin, can you go through the super chats again so I can thank everybody? I don't want to not thank everybody, so just go through them briefly. Thank you, Fly Chomper Fly. Always great to hear from you. Thank you, Teresa. Always great to hear from you as well. Thank you, Chris Garrett, and thank you so much for your 40-month membership. It means the world here. Thank you, Samud. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize in advance if I'm not, but thank you for your thoughts. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Samud, again, and thank you, Samud, a third time. Thrice. Thank you guys very, very much for being part of this. It's been awesome hanging out with you today. If I don't see you before the election, stay safe. Have a happy Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday. I hope it's your favorite holiday too. Well, actually, I don't care if it's your favorite holiday or not. Why did I say that? That was a weird thing to, yeah. I don't know why I said that. I guess if it's your favorite holiday, that's great. But if it's not, that's totally okay. That just sort of came out. That's weird, though. I don't. You're allowed to love any holiday you want. All right. And if it's Halloween, that's great. But if it's not, that's okay. But Halloween's my favorite holiday. And if it's yours, that's awesome. Enjoy it. I hope you have a good one. And yeah, happy Halloween. Thanks for hanging out today. Don't forget, Coast to Coast on election night, Jordan in Pennsylvania, Tina in Nevada. It's going to be awesome. TBD on the time, but follow us over on Status Coup. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and we'll be announcing all of that. Have a happy election night, y'all. Have a happy Halloween. This is